Jnananjana Salakaya Chaturmuritam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajnalambita Bhujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Takshu Vishwambaro Dvijabaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagapriyakaro Karunavatar Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Bodhayai Pushpavanto Chitro Sandho Vandeham Shri Ramakrishna Abhaya Sharanasako Sukho Paramando Sundaro Subhadriyo He Krishna Karuna Dinabandhu Jagatpate Shopika Kanta Radha Muse Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwanusute Pranamami Jayate Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shri Gauri Vaishnava Dutta Radhe Shri Guru Radha Madhava
Okay.
Welcome. Who's happy to come? Just you. Came with Krishna. Oh, came separately. And welcome. Have you met before?
Not before now.
Your name?
Amitanam Das.
Amitanam Das. Yeah. Tell your name and welcome. So, ask him, go within, inquire within, and such. Yes.
I was really wanted to ask about tilak. So why? And pretty much it. Why?
Tilak.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, who told us to do tilak? Where did it come from? Where did it come from? And what is a marking? What is Similar.
Mhm. Mhm. Right. We follow the Vaishnava system of Urdhva Kundra, or tilak that goes up and down, straight, rather than tilak on the cross like this, which is worn by the Shaivites. So there's a differing symbolic um, marking for the different sects for the Vaishnavas, as I'm speaking about in the broad sense, and for the Shaivites. And then within the Vaishnavas, of course, there are different lineages. And they're thought to be, there's a statement in the Padma Purana that there are 4 different Vaishnava sects, or lineages stemming from the Brahma, Kumars, Lakshmi, and Shiva. Within modern historical time, there are persons who are thought to represent those different ahistorical personalities, and the way in which that conclusion has been arrived at as to who represents which of those ahistorical figures, Brahma, Rudra, Kumaras, and Lakshmis, is yes, it's an opinion. It's derived from their teachings. The teachings are distinct, and within the context of the teachings, they give a particular prominent. They identify as a prominent role or the origin of their sampradaya with those historical persons. That said, there are more than 4 of those. The prominent ones is thought are Manuja, Bharaka, Vishnu Swami, and Madhva. And then there's the Chaitanya Sampradaya, which historically and traditionally, over hundreds of years, dating from the eternal associates of Mahaprabhu and their writings, such as Kavi Karnapur, Gopal Guru Goswami, many authors thereafter for hundreds of years up to Baladev Vibhushan, who did it also in a prominent way. These acharyas identified our lineage with the Brahma Madhva lineage, and made a connection in their minds between Madhava Puri and the Madhva lineage. In more recent times, that connection between Madhava Puri and the Madhva line has been questioned by modern objectivity, academic standards, and so forth. That's a big subject that's just been on my mind recently, but at any rate, the testimony of the associates of Mahaprabhu is powerful evidence for devotees. It may not be powerful evidence for Madhvas as to the connection between Madhava Puri and the Madhva line, but for that matter, the connection of Madhva to the Brahma line is also simply an article of faith, because it's well known that Madhva was a student of the Advaita lineage, and he took sannyas in that lineage. And then it is said that he espoused a different doctrine from the Advaitins, one that was diametrically opposed to it, and by its name, Dvaita, as opposed to Advaita. And then it's said in the history of the Madhvas that he went to the Himalayas and spoke with Vyas and got his ideas confirmed. So we were generous in supporting the faith of the Madhvas. But Vyasa went there and found, or excuse me, the Madhva went there and talked with Vyasa to try to confirm such an idea. But we're generous and we support their faith and acknowledge them as a representative of the Brahma Sampradaya, which begins with Krishna speaking to Brahma. Right? Some of the Madhvas questioned then our connection to them and to the Brahma Sampradaya, and sometimes make a case that we're not one of the four Sampradayas mentioned in the Padma Purana, stemming from Brahma, Lakshmi, Kumaras, or Shivas, or some type of renegades, something like that. That is to say, they're apparently not as generous as we are, and we have articles of faith as well, and our faith lies in the testimony of Guru Goswami, Kavi Karnapur, for example. There are statements from the Vallabha Sampradaya also, which is a contemporary Sampradaya, Mahaprabhus stemming from Vishnu Swami, the grandsons of Vallabha. The two of them, Bhadranath and Gokulnath, have both written books in which they describe the relationship between Madhava and Rupuri and their grandfather, Vallabha, who I believe they say took sannyas from Madhava and Rupuri, who studied Shastra under Madhava and Rupuri, who was a Madhava. One of the problems, of course, is an aside, is that Madhava and Rupuri is a sannyasi. Puri is a sannyasi means it's not given by the Madhvas. The Madhvas give all their sannyasis the title Tirtha. And so there's the argument that Madhava and Rupuri was not a member of the Madhva line. And of course, there are the arguments as well that the teachings that came out of that blossomed and bore in Madhava and Rupuri and bore fruit in the person of Ishvara Puri and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were different than the Madhva teachings in some respects. There are some significant differences. And so again, the case sound that we are a renegade, unauthorized group whose mantras don't come from one of the four sampradayas, and sampradaya vihina ye mantras te nishphalamita. The Padma Purana goes on to say, you don't get your mantra from one of these four sampradayas, it won't bear any fruit. So, it's a bit of a controversy that's been around for quite some time. But as I say, the testament of the grandsons of Vallabha, it can't be relegated merely to hearsay. These are sadhus. They knew Vallabha. They're his grandsons, and so it's not a very distant connection. So that's one sampradaya, and then there's the Gaudiya sampradaya, so it's two sampradayas against one. Regarding the Madhava and Puri being connected to Madhva Sampradaya. Our article of faith is, of course, in comparison to the Madhvas, and being Madhva spoke to Vyasa and had all of his insights of Dvaitavad confirmed. Our article of faith is that although Madhva was in some way connected, Madhava and Puri, in some way was connected with Madhva Sampradaya. Now I'll answer your question, but in some way connected to the Madhva Sampradaya. Perhaps he was initiated as a sannyasi, as an Advaitin, and got to take the title Puri. We find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas from the Advaitin Keshav Bharati, Brahmananda Puri, Brahmananda Bharati, Keshav Bharati, these are, and several other, the 9, if you will, metaphorical roots to the tree of love of God that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, who himself is also the distributor of the fruits and needs help, as explained by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Those 9 metaphorical roots of the tree are these 9 principal sannyasis who were elders of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Parmananda Puri, Keshava Puri, Keshava Bharati, Brahmana Bharati, and so on. So they arguably, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all took sannyas from the prominent Advaitin sect. Nonetheless, despite their formal Advaita connection by sannyas to the lineage they espoused, Vaishnavism. So the way in which the lines were drawn in times gone by, it appears, at least amongst the Vaishnavas, that there was less of a sectarian spirit, even where you have, for example, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepts the commentary of Sridhar Swami that we trace to the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya. And all of our Goswami's commentaries defer to Sridhar Swami again and again. And the Swami said this, and the Swami said that. And then they elaborate, of course, to give their own insights as well. But Mahaprabhu had great regard for Sridhar Swami's commentary. His followers do. This is the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya. And then the position again that Madhavendra Puri is connected with Madhva Sampradaya, a position taken by the devotees. We find Rupa Goswami in his home, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, after explaining the angas, the limbs of the angi, the body of Vaidhi Bhakti, at the end of that section, that section of the 2nd chapter of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, what does he say there? He says, and while he has referred to this as Vaidhi Bhakti, he says, and there are others who refer to it as Maryada, and it's more or less the same. When he follows that section by a section on Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, and then that completes the chapter on sadhana. When he completes the section on Raganuga Bhakti, he says, and there are others that call this Pushti, and they're more or less the same. There's a very clear reference to the Vallabha Sampradaya, which again is a modern representation of the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya, and Sridhar Swami is a member there, a prominent commentator and so forth. Vallabha was a contemporary of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, living in Vrindavan a good part of the time, and so forth. His grandson, well, his grandsons may have been Mahaprabhu probably, but this is a clear example of how the Goswamis, as members of the new and budding, if you will, Chaitanya Sampradaya that they were empowered by Mahaprabhu to be the architects of, were living in Vrindavan with other Vaishnavas and other sects, like the Vishnu Swami sect, and Markis are there also. But here's a reference particularly to the Vallabhas, and he said they're more or less the same. Now, if you go and look at the philosophy and the Siddhanta of the Vallabhas and the Gaudias, there are all kind of things that will stick out. Like, oh, we don't believe that. We didn't say that. But philosophy is a way, of course, of trying to put into words in a reasonable arrangement of thought that which is ineffable and beyond thought, that from which words return, that from which, as the Shruti says, the mind returns, unable to go there, capture it unto themselves. So we stress our philosophy amongst ourselves. It's important because it's been explained by our empowered acharyas, and it gives us a handle on the whole thing and conceptually orients us in such a way that will foster the actions that constitute Uttam Bhakti, which will result in the prayojan, of attainment of Bhakti Rasa, of praying in prayojan. It's the ideal. So it's important to us. At the same time, there's some relativity to it, because such is the nature of attempts to verbalize or to put into words and thought, to translate love into logic and English, Sanskrit, Bengali, as may be the case. So before we get too caught up in the philosophy, we should be, and it will very much help us and so forth. But then when we look at other Vaishnava Sampradayas who have saints, or look at other traditions, for example, like the Catholic saints, for example, or some of the Sufi saints and so forth, we have to acknowledge that if their path is their ego effacing, and there are examples of that, then they're having, and within that, there is some form of bhakti, at least the Satviki form of bhakti, for example, which the Gyanis can attain from if they so desire. Sufism is kind of a mystic form of Islam, influenced by Advaita Vedanta. Influenced by Advaita Vedanta in terms of perhaps of identifying with something that we call Brahman. They might term differently, but at the same time carrying Islamic theistic worshipfulness, bhakti-ish, if you will, sensibilities. So, and then the Catholic saints, mystics, and so forth, especially of the medieval times, and who are extraordinary persons. Bhakti was generous to think like this in his very perennialist kind of theistic perennialist perspective. This is what Thakur was very much about. He wanted to take Gaudiya Vaishnavism, the great tradition that it is, that was not even respected in its homeland, in Bengal, by Hindus, and put it on the world stage as one of the main religions in the world. And once it got there, say that it was the main act, if you will, in which the ideas of others are all included within. This is what he wanted to do. And so he was very wise to try to find common ground at the time with world religions like Christianity. So he found common ground with that. The way he spoke was very accommodating. He mentioned in his Gita commentary on the 4th chapter where Krishna says that Sambhavami Juge Juge, I come again and again, yuga after yuga. He says this does not mean only in India. You may come in other countries as a Shaktivesha and preach the Dharma according to where the people are, what people are like and their cultural sensibilities there. This was not just the generosity of Bhakti, it has some kind of a preaching strategy, although there's a preaching strategy involved to bring attention to the super excellence of Gaudiya Vedanta, its charm and its depth of scriptural and theological philosophical insight. He wanted to do that, but he genuinely felt that other traditions had value and something to share and exchange in the world of ideas and thoughts and theologically and so forth. As much as we will include Shantarasa within Bhakti Rasa or Dasya Rasa with Aishwarya and Vaikuntha, and you have to include these kind of Rumis and St. Francis's and St. Teresa's and so forth and so on. This is our Paribhara, Bhakti Paribhara coming back. This one video also all coming Bhakti Paribhara. So it's a characteristic of the group, very generous. I'm not sure how to segue into Bhakti Vinod there, but very generous and so be generous with the madhus also, that there, and I'm saying that the Goswamis were living in Vrindavan, and they were generous with other Vaishnava groups, and they found common ground, despite differences of how to explain it. And the differences are not just how to explain it, but they're also explaining something a little different. Each of the lineages is explaining something a little different because each of them has a philosophy that seeks to articulate and corresponds with the bhava, the window of opportunity that it affords. So bhava has a certain window of opportunity in its sampradaya. Prominent, for example, in the Ballava Sampradaya is the opportunity of Vatsalya Rasa. We don't find it in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sampradaya. We talk about it as a transcendental possibility, and so when we honor it, we pay our pranam to it, but we don't find it. Maybe some rare instance of it, something like that. But in the Ballava Sampradaya, it's prominent. There's also a form of Madhurya Rasa that's prominent in the Gopi Bhav, in the Ballava Sampradaya. It's different in the form that's prominent in Gaudiya Sampradaya. Gaudiya Sampradaya, of course, is what's prominent in Gaudiya Sampradaya is the Radha Das and the Manjari Bhava, the handmaidens of Radha, and also some of the friends of Krishna, because it's founded by Gaur and Nityananda. Gaur pursuing the love of Radha, the overflow of which is someone can also take part in that by way of Radhadasyam, so a big subject. Of course, we find the Goswamis in that Radha. And then you find Nityananda, the biggest helper of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, bringing people to his attention, drawing people to his dispensation, and invariably his own bhava of Sakyarasa affecting certain devotees who are part of current of that subcurrent, assisting, say, a role in the drama, a supporting role in the drama. So that there are different sampradayas. They present to us different windows of opportunity to enter the transcendence. You have to embark a sampradaya. This is a Rag Marg sampradaya also. It's about Sati Bhav. Not the Manjari Bhav. They don't accept the Parakiya in the Paravyon, in the Lok, and they just have only Sati Bhav. The ideal there is they just enter in the Sati Bhav. There's no other rasas going on. It's just this Sati Bhav. So this tells you something about the nature of the spiritual world. It's not like linear, it's like multidimensional. One part of one Gaudiya saying who his ideal was to live in one part of one Leela at one time of the day, in terms of the eightfold divisions of the day in the life of Krishna. So they all have different. There's an embark window opportunity, that's Rag Marg. The Ballava windows of opportunity, that's Rag Marg, and the Gaudiyas. Then you have your Vaidhi Marg opportunities in Madhva and Ramanuja, Sampradayas, Vishnu Swami, Sri Goswami. It's kind of a little bit of both, but anyway, so this statement from Rupa Goswami that I cited, two statements in Bhakti Samhita, they speak about the extent to which the Gaudiyas were living not only amongst themselves, without a sectarian spirit, but amongst other Vaishnava Sampradayas, all of whom united to some extent against the Advaitin perspective that was prominent at the time, at least of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the point being that Madhva, as I'm saying, his connection to Madhavendra, where his connection with Madhva Sampradaya, it may not meet the formalities that we think of it today that are important and significant, but they really more distinctly identify one with this Sampradaya, almost with kind of propaganda. If you go over there, something wrong with you, then there'll be a problem. And modern day Madhvas are like that. Unfortunately, they won't cross the ocean or anything over there. Stuff. Nobody else is real except for them. They have to be a bit sectarian like that. But we see evidence from the time of Mahaprabhu. This wasn't the case. Again, the leading sannyasis who were senior to him, that formed the 9 metaphorical roots of the tree, rooted in otherworldliness, renunciation in a sense. Of course, it's yukta vairagya. That's another interesting subject, and how we don't look at vairagya as a means. It's not an anga of bhakti, but it is a result. Janayati ashuvayragyam jnanam chaitavaitikam of bhakti. But they were obviously, fairly obviously, connected to the Shankar Sampradaya by way of their sannyas. Their sannyas names Bharati, Puri, so on and so forth. And that they were full followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or becoming followers. And they weren't reinitiated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for example. So they had official connection in one place, but a substantial connection elsewhere, and lived within that, and so forth. So we kind of look at Madhavendra Puri as something like that. The details of his connection to the Madhavas, nobody can trace it out. You can dismiss it if you like, but then you'll be dismissing the statements of some of Mahaprabhu's eternal associates like Karnapur, Gopal Goswami, who arguably met Madhavendra Puri and were there at the formation of the Sampradaya. And the grounds for dismissing it are like kind of technical details that, you can't demonstrate that he was initiated in Tirtha or something, and so on. That's true. But you have testimony also from the Vallabha Sampradaya, as I said, these grandsons of Vallabha, the Gaudias. And then our article of faith, if you will, that corresponding with the faith of the Madhvas, that Madhva met Vyas, is that within Madhavendra Puri and his Madhva influence arose the seed of the conception of Mahaprabhu that flowered and bore fruitfully in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. The ideas for example, that he was said to have expressed at the time of his passing, love for Krishna and Radha and separation from Krishna. These are not ideas found in Madhva Sampradaya. This is where the lineage differs doctrinally in a central way. You find it's coming in Madhavendra Puri. So our article of faith is, of course, that